Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Silva Skillet. Today, I'm really pleased and honored to have with me Kevin Smith, who's running for governor of the great state of New Hampshire.
Pete, pleasure to be on the Skillet.
Yeah, on the Skillet,
yes.
See? And you're on the Skillet on the road more than this, though. So
that's true. That's true. But it's a pleasure to take a little break from the campaign trail to come and stir up a good meal with you.
Well, you got to be able to eat, right?
You do. It's very important that the candidates stay nourished on the trail.
So Kevin's going to make today for us Smitty's, you call it, clam chowder, right?
Smitty's New England clam chowder.
And this is a family recipe?
Well, not really, no. But clam chowder has long been a favorite food of mine. And I continue to eat it to this day, despite the fact that I actually developed a shellfish allergy a couple of years ago. But Pete, my philosophy is go big or go home.
There you go.
And in New England, you got to go big when it comes to seafood. And so a few years ago, I decided that I wanted to start making my own chowder as somebody who likes going out to the restaurant and eating it. So this is actually the recipe I have is a hodgepodge of different recipes I took off the internet and experimented with a few different things. And I think the end product you'll like rather well.
Oh, it smells good already, so I'm dying to try it. So tell us what we have to do. Tell us what the main things are, and maybe we'll get a little secret as we go along on what
Sure. Well, of course, the main things are the clam and the potatoes. But first, you got to make the chowder to put it in. So what we're going to start with is a little saute. So I'm going to put some butter in here, and I'll add the fact that, you know, a lot of these measurements are really personal preference based on taste and how long you want to live for. But I come from a family of Italians. My father's Italian, my wife is Italian, and so we tend to go a little bit in abundance on the butter and olive oil, if you know what I mean. And I know you do know what I mean, having the last name Silva. So we'll...
Of course, according to our sponsor and host, the gracious Roth Builders here, Jerry Roth spelled my name S-L-V-E-R, just so we know. We want to make sure we get that on record. But this is a beautiful kitchen that GM Roth has given us.
Beautiful kitchen.
That, isn't it?
Yeah, I would encourage anyone who can come down to the showroom here, make sure you do, because what they're selling down here is pretty impressive. It's very nice. So we're just going to melt the butter in the big pot here. And again, I'm using about 2 tablespoons of butter. You can use, you know, some people may just want to use a teaspoon or...
And you use real butter, not margarine.
Oh, I use real butter, yeah.
You gotta have real butter.
Of course you do. So we're just going to let this melt here before we start cooking up our saute. Now, while we're waiting to do that, the saute we're going to be putting in, I've already minced all of this, and I can try to show it to the viewers there, but this is, we got a minced onion. We got about a cup of minced onion in here. We have minced bacon as well, and this isn't cooked bacon. You want to make sure it's not cooked. And again, you can do a slice, 2 slices, 3 slices, again, depending on the flavor and texture that you're going for.
So you just put the bacon like right in your food processor?
Right in the food processor. Yep, and it'll mince it right up for you. We also got some minced garlic. I cheat. I buy the minced garlic already at the... If you haven't done that, folks, you got to do it. It tastes just as good, and it saves you a lot of time. But we've got just a little bit of minced garlic in here. And then we've got a special blend of spices as well. And this you can go online. You can go to the Cliff House restaurant. It's in Ogunquit, Maine. And they've got a great recipe in there for a spice blend to put in your clam chowder. It's got some parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. I feel like I should break out in song at this point. There's some oregano in there as well. But all good stuff. And again, you can find that right on the internet. So I combine them all in this Tupperware container, as you can see here. And I'm just going to put it all in, and we'll start sauteing it. Now, the important thing here is you don't want to let it brown. You want to saute it just enough. Get the spices off the bottom here.
I've been to the Cliff House, actually.
It's pretty good, isn't it? Great restaurant.
The place is really, it's an amazing view.
It is. It's beautiful. And this is just about the time of year when you can start heading up there too, when the weather gets nice. Take the walk along the Meridian Way, which isn't too far, and go down to Perkins Cove.
We actually, one of my favorite restaurants ever is called the White Barn Inn, which is in Kennebunk. But we stayed at the Cliff House and then went there, and I saw that on Chronicle. Amazing place. We should go together sometime. He does a cooking thing, you know.
We should, Pete.
It's a cooking weekend.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to take my special blend up there. Again, now, I mean, this is depending on the flavor you want, the texture you want. You can do a little bit more, a little bit less of all of this here. But you want to saute it so that it's obviously very warm. But again, be careful not to let it brown while you're doing this. So we're not browning.
We're just going to warm it up.
Exactly.
Well, while we're waiting on
sure.
that, why don't we talk a little bit about your latest endeavor? So. It's quite a thing running for governor.
It is quite a thing, Pete. You know, it's one of the hardest things, one of the hardest endeavors I've ever embarked on, because you're out literally every single day and night, going to house parties, visiting businesses, talking at different GOP committees, and just meeting as many people as possible and letting them know why it is you're running for governor. And that's been really important to me, is talking to people about my vision and my plan for this state on how we're going to attract good jobs here, particularly good restaurants for people to eat at, how we're going to spur economic development and retain our young folks in the state. I think it's important we start keeping more young people here in New Hampshire, and also bringing up good jobs for Massachusetts. And I'll tell you this, Pete, it is one of the most gratifying things that I've ever done, because you really get to see all of the good stuff that's going on in this state. You know, most people, you know, they're busy with their everyday lives. They go to work every day. They're going to their kids' school events and sporting events. But I really have the pleasure right now of traversing all around this state and really seeing a lot of the good stuff that's happening in all different areas of the state. You know, I was up in Berlin not that long ago, and the paper mill up there has really been revitalized. It's amazing. They're almost at 200 jobs already. They're adding a new machine up there. Their volume they're outputting every month is increasing. It's really great stuff. So we have all types of good innovation and things going on. And you know, I said recently that people talk about the New Hampshire advantage in our state. To me, the New Hampshire advantage is our people. You know, they're good, hardworking, good work ethic people that just want to get the job done. And to me, that's a lot of goes with the Yankee attitude as well. You know,
well, you see it now, but I know, like, I learned not campaign, like I was telling you earlier today, Kevin and I were talking, and I'm just running in little wards. You know, I can't imagine doing the whole state, but during the Perry campaign, just meeting other people and then seeing the classic thing about, you know, who you're going to vote for. Well, I only met the guy 3 times. And the New Hampshire people don't realize how spoiled they are to have that privilege.
It's true. You know, the people want to look you in the eye, and they want to see what you're all about. And I think voters are looking for someone who just doesn't have rhetoric, but is really speaking from their heart about the things they're passionate about in this state in terms of how we're really going to grow good jobs here.
Now, to start that, you must have started at home to go ask your family and, you know, what they thought about you running for governor, and
I did,
how did
Pete.
that
go? Well, obviously it went well enough that I'm running. You know, I'm very fortunate to have the support of my great wife, Susie. And we have 3 kids, Colby, he's 7, Lindsay, who's 6, and Thomas, who's 3. Though I can't say it actually started well, because prior to me officially announcing that I was running, I'm just going to turn down the burner here as this is starting to cook a little bit. We're all riding in the car together. And I said to them, I said, so guys, Dad's thinking about running for governor. Wonder what you think about that. And immediately my daughter said, I don't think so, Dad. And I was a little taken aback by this. And I said, well, geez, how come, Lindsay? And she said, because, Dad, I've seen you run, and I'm pretty sure there's others who can run faster than you. So now I've explained to them Dad's walking to be governor.
There you go.
And they think my chances have just gone up a little bit. All right. We're going to get back to the meal for...
Is that where we want that?
This is where we want this.
Okay.
If you notice, it's not browned at all, but it's cooked just enough so that we can go to the next steps here of adding in what we need to add in. So what we're going to do is stir in some clam juices and flour as well. Now, there's 2 different clam juices. One is, we're going to have a can of clams. So you want to drain the juice, but don't throw it away, because we're going to keep it and add it in. And so this is the juice from those clams. So we're just going to...
Which is kind of like a bag of potato chips. When you open up the bag, it's not quite full, is it? There's more juice than clams.
There is, and that's the case with the clams as well. So
is that 1 can of clams?
That's 1 can of clams, and then the other thing is we're going to add another. We're going to add another bottle to that as well, and this is equal to 1 cup.
Okay. So
we're going to add that in. So we've added the 1 cup of the clam juice, and then we've also drained the water, into the mixture as well. Yep. And then the other thing we're going to put in it about this time is our flour. Now, this is important because this depends on how thick you want your chowder to be. I particularly like chowder that is more on the thick side than on the thin side, so I add a little bit more flour. I do about 3 tablespoons. But this is really, again, on personal preference, whatever you want. So I'm going to add that in there.
So you started maybe with 2 and you thought it would be thicker? And
Yes, I did. And I would, anyone who's planning on making this, I would advise that you add a little bit at a time, because I thought I'd get a little cute one day, Pete, and added about a half a cup of flour. And it was the most pasty clam chowder I've ever made, and I kept trying to add more and more stuff to get the pasty taste out, and it just never quite happened. So I would highly suggest you add it slowly. So I've gotten it down to about 3 tablespoons. That's where I like it.
We made our first day out. I made this thing I made up called chicken and hot peppers, and part of it is a broth or the gravy to it.
Yeah.
So my son was making it at college, and he calls me up and says, "Dad, why is it the gravy's like paste? It's so thick." And I said, "Well, what did you do to it?" He said, "I put the flour in." I said, "Well, did you mix water with it?" "Oh, no." He just threw the flour in. So, yeah, that probably didn't work out.
Yeah, you don't want to add too much flour. Now, the other thing I use at this point is a whisk, because you want to get the flour clumps out of it.
It already looks good.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It smells good too, right?
It absolutely does.
So you just want to, whisk it up. By the way, I like your black chef shirt, although I have to tell you, real men wear pink. And so that's, this was a gift of a family friend.
There's more than one, we'll just put it that way.
So we're just going to keep whisking this, and actually we're going to bring it to a boil as well.
Now the other thing is, so far, we're not taking any cuts, so this whole thing, soup to nuts, pardon the pun, takes you what, half an hour to make?
Half an hour, yeah. At one point you got to let it simmer for about 20 minutes, and so really that's the longest portion of this. But between prep time and the simmering time, at the most it'll take you is about an hour. Once you know what you're doing. So it's a relatively easy meal to make. Great, of course, on a wintry day in New England, even though we didn't get many of those this year.
You're getting winter and spring right now, the wind.
Yeah, it's been chilly out there.
So where's the next stop on the campaign trail?
Well, we've got a bunch of stops this week. We're going to be in Wolfboro on Wednesday. We're doing a business roundtable with a bunch of small business owners up there on Wednesday. We've got a full day of campaign events tomorrow. I'm actually at the point now where I'm looking the night before at my calendar for the next day because we're just on the road so much. Today we did a radio show in Concord called Pints and Politics. We did it at the Barley House. I had water during the interview, Pete. Don't worry about it. But it was we had a fun time doing that interview. I also spoke to the Sauhegan GOP group this morning in Amherst. So we've had a little bit of a Nashua-Amherst flavor to today.
Well, hey, there's a lot going on in this town of Nashua.
There is. I'll tell you, Nashua is a great city. Love the folks here. You guys do a great job on both the city level and the state level, and you've done a great job, Pete, as being a state rep. Now, this is really boiling right now, so what we're going to do is we're going to bring it down. We don't want it to boil it too much. You certainly don't want it to burn on the bottom of the pot. But you see, we whisked that for a while again to make sure there's a good texture there with the flour that we added, because we did add a little bit more. And now what we're going to do is, before we let this simmer for 20 minutes, we're going to add some heavy cream. Now, again, this is the Italian in me. I'm really not Italian, Pete, but kind of by osmosis, given my wife's Italian heritage. You can do half and half if you want.
Nah.
I do the heavy cream.
Sure.
Okay. So we're going to get some heavy cream out over here. And we're going to do about 1.5 cups. And, you can separate the good cooks from the bad cooks by the ones that just don't have to measure and use any old thing they find off the counter to start mixing this stuff
in. Measuring thing. That's why I say all the time why I don't bake, because you really can't fudge bacon. You got to really measure stuff, and I can't do it. You got to measure with your eye and your tongue.
very true. You know, my wife and I, we got our wedding cake from Mike's Pastries in Boston. And I'll never forget when we went down there, you know, we asked, how big are the size of your wedding cakes? And they said, oh, you know, there's one of these kind of things. We said, how much is that going to be? Oh, you know, I mean, it just making things up out of thin air. But I'll tell you, it was one of the best cakes we've ever had. It was absolutely delicious. So we add about 1.5 cups there of that heavy cream, and we're just going to stir it up here in our pot.
So it's funny too, I'm from Connecticut originally, so you kind of split, it's almost like Yankees and Red Sox there.
Yes.
They're split down the middle, but Chowder is too. You have the Boston side, which is this type, and then of course you have the New York side, which is the Manhattan style clam chowder.
That's right. Now I've never had Manhattan style chowder. I've heard about it, but I've never had it.
Well, my wife is from the southern part of Connecticut.
Yes.
So her family all had the Manhattan style.
They did, huh?
And then my father's all from the Cape.
Yep.
So it's funny, I never really had it till I met my wife, and her mother always made the Manhattan one. I don't know, it's
well, what's the difference, Pete?
It's a tomato base, the Manhattan one.
Is it really?
So there's no cream at all in it.
Oh.
So it's basically your clam chowder with tomatoes and, you know, it's a red sauce.
Okay. Well, I mean, and you know,
it's different.
It's different, and New Yorkers are different. Let's face it. The Giants, the Yankees, you know.
They are.
And maybe I just kind of lost the New York vote in New Hampshire, but
there's not too many of them. They're a rare breed.
All right, so this has to simmer for about 20 minutes. Now, lucky for you, Pete, I brought a meal that's already been pre-prepared.
I'm gonna have to go after that.
And this is where, I mean, this is, you definitely want some of this. This is absolutely fantastic. Now, this is already has the potatoes and clams added to it. And what we did here is, you know, after this simmers for about 20 minutes, you're going to add in the potatoes, about 3/4 of a cup of potatoes.
Are those cooked?
These are not cooked.
Those are not cooked.
No, but I will tell you that, excuse me, they are cooked. And again, I've cheated a little bit here. Now you can dice the potatoes and cook them yourself if you want to do that. Del Monte,
or cook them in there.
Or cook them in there. Del Monte came out with.
Oh, okay. They're already
These are diced Del Monte potatoes. You know, it's kind of like the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Ready to go.
They're ready to go. I use them
in a can, or
in a can. Nope, they're in a can, and I use them for home fries. Actually, they're very good for home fries. But they're great to put in the chowder as well. And then you're also going to want to add your clams at that point as well, your can of clams. And for good measure, you're going to want to add in probably about a teaspoon or so of white pepper as well. And when it's all said and done, you get this nice pot of chowder there. So should we put a few bowls?
I'm dying to try it. So
well, all right. Well, let's serve some up here.
Serve some up and let's give it a try. Now, one thing is for sure, when we're making clam chowder, we're always concerned about cost, and being a candidate for governor,
yes,
we're going to be concerned about the budget. I hear you introduced your economic plan today.
Well, I introduced part 2 of that economic plan that deals with lowering the cost of health care and also lowering the cost of energy as well. We pay some of the, let me scoop a little bit more for you there, Pete. We pay some of the highest electricity rates in the entire country, even though we're a net exporter of energy in our state. And so we haven't had a long-term energy plan in our state for, gosh, probably the last 20 years. And we really need to start doing that if we're going to be serious about bringing down electric rates and making it competitive for businesses to move into our state. That's one of the big competitive disadvantages that we have, is the cost of doing business from an energy standpoint. And so one of the things that I've proposed doing is, you know, we need to enact policies and legislation that allow the public utility companies to purchase electricity at the cheapest rate possible, because right now we mandate that a certain percentage of their energy produced has to come from alternative sources. We're essentially subsidizing them, and we're all paying for it as ratepayers. You know, everyone's getting fed up with how much we're paying for electricity in this state, but they have to understand the policies we've enacted over the last decade that are driving up the rates, and some of these are these onerous regulations that I know you've tried getting rid of, Pete, during your time in the House.
That's the amazing thing, is when you get in there, you don't realize that, you know, everyone just thinks that, you know, you don't have any, you can't fathom what it costs. Like, I'm sure that paper mill you visited
Oh yeah.
to pay to run the place.
Although they've recently switched over to using natural gas, and we did everything we could to make that happen as a state, and we got it done pretty quick. You know, a lot of times when the EPA and DES get involved, things aren't happening very quick in this state. But it seems like when there's a will to do it, we get it done quick, and that was the case with the paper mill. They're now running incredibly efficiently on natural gas because we got a pipeline extended over to there. We need more projects like that in our state. But if folks want to find out more about my specific plan, they can go to my website, kevinsmithforgovernor.com. And my plan is called New Hampshire's Future is Now. And there's 4 parts to the economic plan. Part 1 dealt with our corporate tax rate and lowering that, and also dealt with streamlining state government. And Part 2 now deals with the delivery of health care to make it more affordable and make it more effective. And as I mentioned, the energy rates as well. So we have 2 more parts still to come, but I'm the only candidate that's offered a very specific and bold plan to spur economic growth in the state. Because I think people want more than rhetoric. I think they're feeling that, you know what, it's time for substance, it's time for practical ideas, and you know, the time for rhetoric is done on both sides.
And I'm thinking that people are finally getting it. At least I'm hoping that they are.
Pete, they are. I hear it all the time from
you
folks.
hearing it?
I am. You know, I speak to, as I said, a lot of places every week, and the theme I always hear after I speak is, wow, you're offering a lot of substance, you have great ideas, and you've got the experience and background of actually getting good reforms in state government. And it really is my wheelhouse, and I'm proud of my record over the years, having been in the legislature and, you know, worked in state government and fought for good reforms while I was working on the inside.
We should probably mention, I'm not sure if everybody knows, that Kevin was a state rep. So he knows, he actually has been there, knows what it's like to be inside and work with knuckleheads like me. But
never call you guys that.
Well, we did work together before when Kevin was with Cornerstone.
That's right.
And I have to say, without your help, we wouldn't have gotten a lot of the things done that we did. And that was setting the stage for, you know, what came up this year.
Well,
lay the
sure.
groundwork.
Well, and again, I mean, my time at Cornerstone really is marked by the fact that I was fighting every day against a lot of the terrible policies we were putting through at the time. If you remember, we had levied a tax on LLCs in this state, which Governor Lynch called a loophole, fixing a loophole. It was a brand new tax that we'd never had before on businesses in this state. We saw an increase in the rooms and meals tax. There was the campground tax that they imposed at one point. It is a classic. Well, and if you remember too, they also wanted to tax helium balloons, that if you let a helium balloon go into the air, you were going to get fined for it. And then you had Maggie Hassan propose the state government takeover of our health care system. So you had a lot of terrible policies. The spending was out of control. I mean, despite the fact that they raised 82 taxes and fees, we were still $1 billion short in our state budget. I mean, you really have to work hard to come up with a scheme like that. And that's the stuff that I was out there fighting against during the time that I was at Cornerstone.
Well, Kevin, here we go. And you know me, I'm honest.
You are, so try that out.
Delicious.
Thank you.
It really is delicious.
Well, you know, Pete, people have asked me, Kevin, what's your backup plan if you don't win? And I have to be honest, you know, I think I'm going to win. However, there might be a seafood restaurant in the making if things don't go the way I hope they do.
You can tell I'm still eating, so that's a good sign, right?
That is a good sign. I'm glad you like it, though.
Once again, everybody, so with Skillet, I want to thank Kevin Smith. I want to wish him all the luck in the world.
Thanks, Pete.
Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for
having me. Have you back again.
Definitely, we'll do it again.
Summertime's coming around, may I have another dish?
I'm great at peanut butter and jelly.
There you go. Kevin Smith, everybody, thank you. Tune in again next week for another episode of The Silva Skillet. Take care.